G1 CLIMAX 34 daily coverage here on the MrWarrenHayes Show podcast. I, of course, am Warren. When I say more, I mean the final time, the last time that we will be doing daily coverage for the G1. We're wrapping up the playoffs today after all of the tournament has come to a close. We had the playoffs a couple of nights ago on August 15. And today is August 17, so we had Block B, now we had Block A. We know who's moving forward. This is it, folks. This is the shining conclusion of everything we've been doing here that started all the way back in July. So out the gate, I want to thank you all if you were around for the entirety of the coverage, and I hope you appreciated it. I did appreciate doing it. I had a great time. It's always a good time for me when it comes to G1 season. I don't know. I just even in the years that it isn't so great, I love tournament wrestling. I think it's the best form of storytelling that exists in pro wrestling. It's such an easy way to get some really dramatic stuff over, and there was some really dramatic moments, some really great moments throughout the tournament. A tournament which had its ups and downs, but mostly ups. And I finished the tournament satisfied, and I think it's been the best that we've had since the pandemic. And I don't think there's been a G1 that has been so focused, compelling, and maybe when it comes to the work and the excitement of sitting down and watching a G1, maybe not on the levels of the great years of the 2010s or so, those fantastic G1 years where night after night you just have, excellent match after excellent match after excellent match. We haven't been getting that for a while, and this still isn't what we're getting. And maybe I was a little more hopeful that this would be the case this year, but we're still not there. And I don't know if we'll ever if we'll come back to that, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if we will return to those halcyon days. But nonetheless, those who had a part to play in those halcyon days did make the tournament feel special. So maybe there's a lesson to be learned here. I'm going to go through my full thoughts on the tournament, really break down how I, do a proper post-mortem on the MrWarrenHayes Show proper this week, which records live at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, otherwise available the next day on YouTube and on your favorite podcast application. So that's the long and short of it for now. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I think the vibe that I finished the tournament with this year is satisfaction. I think this was a overall a tournament that had a lot more positives than negatives. Was it an outstanding, memorable tournament? No, but the bar is so very high, and if we consider that we're still in reconstruction mode, well, maybe some guys are still trying to find their footing in this type of scenario. There's some guys in this tournament that I expected that they would find their footing and haven't quite, which is weird. And we will be talking a little bit about that in this in this final review here. So let's start by talking about attendance for both nights. First of all, the G1 tag, as you can tell, I'm watching. I'm reading this off a cage match. Night 17. That was in Chiba on August 15. 1,111 people were in attendance. If you compare that to last year, which is almost a good. When we do the last year comps all throughout the tournament, some of them aren't good. They're for multiple reasons. Not the same town, not the same venue. Here we're in Funabashi, which is in the Chiba prefecture of Japan. But it's not Chiba. It's It's not the same city is what I'm saying, but we're very close. But nonetheless, last year, night 17, 2,790 people were in attendance. That's a big drop. But then again, it did not have Kazuchika Okada in the main event, you know, because we were having quarterfinals here at this point as well. Like it wasn't exactly the same pattern. You know, you had Will Ospreay as well, you know, up high on the card. Okada versus Zack Sabre Jr. Well, you had Evil and Sonata for what that's worth, you know. But yeah, I mean, a rather substantial drop, if you ask me. When was the last time that we were in this venue? The Makuhari Messe International Conference Hall 9. As far as I can tell, New Japan has never been in this venue. I think this was a first time affair. If you want to buy into that. But I guess the last time we were in Chiba, which was just a couple of months ago, in May 11, they were in Chiba at the Yohas Arena for the opening night of Best of Super Juniors. That drew 1,164 people. Titan and El Desperado were in the main event, co-main evented by Kushida and Hiromu Takahashi. So, I mean, it is a drop from last year, right? It is. I don't think you can safely. I don't think there's really much you can add to this. It's a substantial drop from last year regarding night 17, and it's kind of the same situation with night 18 as well, where we were in the Ryogoku Kokugikan, the good old sumo hall. 5,340 people showed up for night 18 today on August 17. And a drop from last year, and the comp is good on this front, because last year night 18 was indeed in Ryogoku. 6,579 people that time around, and we were getting semifinals there as well. And in the main event and co-main events, well, you had a mix of Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, and Tetsuya Naito. So, I mean, you would expect that to draw really, really, really well, and Naito and Will Ospreay had that tremendous match. So there's a lot to consider here as far as the attendance woes, or whatever you want. I don't know if they're woes, but disparity. How about that? The drop. I mean, you know, good little main events, don't get me wrong. Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo, Yota Tsuji, Dave Finlay. But can you consider any of these guys top draws? You know, well, we're dropping lower than last year. We're in the same venue. We're essentially in the same time period, right? Last year, night 18 was on the 12th. Like, we're just 5 days away. It's not, you know, 5 days separating is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, it's an interesting thing to put together. Other than that, when was the last time we were in Sumo Hall in Ryogoku for New Japan this year? Well, it was just in June, or in April, excuse me, not June, in April 6th, for Sakura Genesis 2024 main event, Tetsuya Naito and Yota Tsuji. And we also had in the co-main event Shingo Takagi versus Evil for the Never title, and this one drew 6,632. So is this an indictment? You know, over, pushing the new guys and whatnot. Well, look, I don't know if it's an indictment, because Yota Tsuji is the only like new guy that is in the mix, that is being pushed on a main event level, and he's done multiple main events, and we've talked about it. Kind of feel like his main events have been doing fairly well. I think he's being tested on that level. I don't think it was a mistake that he was put in so many main events as one of the new guys, the Reiwa 3, whatever you want to call them. I don't think that was a mistake. I think it was a test. And did he succeed? Did he fail? If indeed New Japan is in this process of elevating people, and not just new guys, if we're in the process of elevating stalwarts like Zack Sabre Jr., well, there are going to be bumps in the road as we try stuff out, as we develop these guys into credible top stars. You can't depend on Tetsuya Naito forever. I said it right here that, part of my prediction of having Naito be a part of the finals was because, well, he's the draw. Will you, do you go ahead and make and pull off final nights of the G1 in the playoffs and not have Naito around to put a little more butts in seats, right? Would there have been more butts in seats? That's a good question, but I think it is safe to assume yes, because Naito's track record is proven. So, I'm kind of, I don't know I don't know how to feel about it. Other than, it's going to take a while, even though Yota Tsuji has a very good connection with the audience, and he's got that aura that everyone loves, and he's going to need a little time to flesh out and to really cement himself as a big time player for the company. So I think these drew well overall, but I mean, the year over year is right there and it's not good. Let's see what the finals do. Like, that's going to be the ultimate test, right? It's going to be, that's going to be the ultimate test as to whether or not a guy like Tsuji and Zack Sabre Jr. have the stuff to draw. Like last year, let me take a look here. They were in Sumo Hall. The main event was, of course, Naito and Kazuchika Okada. That drew 8,283 people. Now, a Naito Okada main event is a tough hurdle to cross for just about anyone, right? Like, is this an impossible figure to reach? I don't think that. If they're drawing 5,000 the night before, and if they're drawing 5,000 the night before, I don't think they're doing 8,000 people in Sumo Hall the next night. Let's compare with last year, right? What did we say? Night 18 in Sumo Hall last year was 6,579. Then the Naito Okada main event drew about 1,600 people more or less. Are we going to get 1,600 more people into the building? I mean, if they crack 7,000, I'd be pleasantly surprised. Like, good for them, and that would be a good testament, as in regards to Zack and Tsuji. But as it stands right now, I don't know. I'm not confident. I'm not that confident. We're gonna buck the trend. Well, we're gonna buck the trend. Usually, I give the results of the night, but there's only a handful of matches, so we'll just jump straight to the reviews here. Starting with, of course, the night one of the playoffs for A Block, where Shingo Takagi defeated the great Okan in a match I really, really liked. I was expecting to like this match, and I did. In this match, Great Okan is back to working a limb, and back to working the arm, making sure that Shingo doesn't have the strength to pull off all of his big power moves. And Shingo's trying to fight back, but But Great-O-Khan lands some throws, some judo throws, some arm drags, some strikes. But a backdrop driver by Shingo takes him down, followed by a superplex by Shingo. And then Shingo goes in for some strikes, which are interrupted by a wrist lock by Great-O-Khan, which was tremendous. Sleeper suplex follows. Shingo does I don't know how to call it, the guillotine lariat. I don't know if I don't know if that has a name, and I don't know if that's the proper way of calling it, but grabs, does like the pumping bomber, but instead of releasing the lariat, he hangs on to the head, to the neck. So basically a headlock, and drives down for a pin attempt, which he had won a match with earlier in the tournament. So everyone sort of gasped when Great-O-Khan kicked out. And you got to love that stuff. You got to love that stuff when you have an audience that's paying attention to what's going on. It's not just me. And when if people are actually paying attention to what's going on, that adds tons to the match here. The crowd is really into this. Some strikes and a straight right by Great-O-Khan. Fujiwara armbar follows. Great-O-Khan lifts Shingo Takagi into an eliminator, but Shingo reverses it into a fantastic DDT. German suplex and a pumping bomber by Shingo, and then he lands the last of the dragon for the win. I gave this 4 stars. I don't think there was much of a doubt that this was going to be the outcome, but what a tremendous match. This was a great match. Just from start to finish, I'm thoroughly entertained. I'm enjoying what's going on. I'm glad to see Great-O-Khan still motivated, excited, biting down on this, and just like, I'm going all the way forward on this one. Like, excuse me. That's the stuff that I wanted out of my pro wrestling. And this was no frills. Excuse me. There was no nonsense to this match. It was just two guys really trying to get the on top of each other in a classic grappling fight, and not just grappling. Like, I mean, a test of strength of will. You could feel the human game of chess happening. It's just great pro wrestling. It's just bare bones, but so exciting because it's well done. It's well done thanks to two really great pro wrestlers. One guy who was one of the greatest in the world, and the other who has demonstrated, and we're talking about Great-O-Khan to be clear here, who has demonstrated that once motivated, he has the spark and he has the thing, and he can be a lot more fun than he has been over the past 18 to 24 months. I thought I had essentially written off Great-O-Khan in my mind as just a guy, just a goof. He wants to do his little comedy things. He wants to eat lemons with Tongaloa. Okay, who cares, right? Despite the fact that when he had debuted, he was so impressive and such an incredible look, and knowing the background, from his excursion over in Rev Pro, I was like, this guy has something to offer. But he never brought it, or he left it behind for a while. Now, I don't know if he was just unmotivated. I don't know if he was in the doghouse. I couldn't tell you. Like, I have no idea. But clearly this G1, as we had speculated at the very start, even in the preview with Chris Samsa, I think there were some guys who ended up in this tournament feeling a little threatened for their spots because of all the talk of, we got to push the new guys. And suddenly they're like, wait a minute, what am I? Chopped liver? Here, there's a ref there. There you go. There's something that shows my age right there. They're like, what about me? What is my spot here? I'm not going to be tossed away like, cracked porcelain. Is that what you do with cracked porcelain? I'd toss it. I wouldn't keep it. Why would you keep, anyway. We're going off track here. The point is that there are some guys in this tournament that did feel threatened. I think a guy like Hiroki Goto was like, no, we're going to turn up. I'm turning up here. I think a guy like Dave Finlay was in the same position. And absolutely a guy like Great-O-Khan, which a lot of people were just shrugging, going, well, he's going to have a couple of wins, but he's also going to, he's a guy to take pins. And then all of a sudden, he's on a roll, and he's on a winning streak, and he makes it to the playoffs. So I think, maybe he was just motivated. Maybe he's out of the doghouse. I couldn't tell. Look, I don't know. But this Great-O-Khan, I hope, continues to show up past the G1. I hope he does, because he's a lot more fun than whatever was going on before. It's good stuff. So Shingo advances to the block finals, whereas over in B block, Yota Tsuji defeated Konosuke Takeshita. This was great too. This was another fantastic match. Like early on, Takeshita is favoring his knee. It seems his knee might become an issue in this match. And guess what? Yota Tsuji goes for it, right? And they strike hard at each other in this match. Takeshita is trying to string offense together, but he's having issues. But he does eventually land a superplex. He does the spot like he did earlier in the tournament. I can't remember who was it. Was it the Gabe Kidd? I don't quite remember. Where he, it wasn't Gabe Kidd, because Gabe Kidd wasn't in his block. I don't remember who he did, but whoever he covered in chairs, right? He covered in chairs and then did a senton, a slingshot senton to the floor. Following that, there's a big slugfest between the two, which I was really into. They try to lift each other. Who's going to suplex the other guy first? And it's just great. And you know what? I was watching this, and Takeshita was so good in this little exchange here, because he made it come across like a real deal struggle. Like, you could feel that it was a struggle here. Takeshita, his work here was phenomenal. Everything he was doing was purposeful, was meaningful. I loved it. Tsuji goes for a gene blast, but it's interrupted by a flying knee. Then Takeshita does this great lariat as well. Following that, a really, really good one. I'm losing my vocabulary over it. Knees and a lariat by Yota Tsuji. Covers, but there's a kick out at one by Takeshita, who lands a blue thunder bomb. Goes for the raging fire, but it's reversed into a stunner by Yota Tsuji, which was tremendous. Then he lands a spear or gene blast. Covers, but Takeshita is in the ropes. A gene blast is avoided. German suplex by Takeshita, but Tsuji gets back up, lands a proper gene blaster, and gets the victory. I love the finish. It's just an absolute tremendous finish. I loved this so much. I thought it was a tremendous match. 4.25 stars for me. Tremendous, excellent match once again. And you can see the through line in all of this connects directly back to Konosuke Takeshita in this tournament. Like most of the great matches that you will find in the G1 CLIMAX 34 involve good old Konosuke. I thought this was tremendous. And Yota Tsuji working hard here as well. We'll talk about Yota in a bit. But look, if you were to tell me, it's like that Takeshita, really didn't have an impact in this tournament, I would call you a liar. I would say you are a liar, pants for hire. I would say you did not watch this, because Takeshita was an important through line in this tournament. Some excellent matches. I think he was absolutely phenomenal here. I think B block was better because of him. It was a fantastic get to put him in the tournament, drive him all the way. And, you know, here's the thing is that in the meantime, right? In the meantime, let me pull this up here. He's been putting over the guys that Geto wants him to put over, right? Tsuji, of course, is was a given here, right? But he lost to Finlay. He lost to Yumera. He even lost to Bolton. Like, this isn't a guy who came in and started throwing his weight around, you know, pulling, you know, this ain't gonna work for me, brothers. No, this is a guy who came in to tell me what to do, Booker, man. Well, I want you to put over my guys. I want you to put over Dave Finlay. Okay. Yumera, you know, he's going to be important for the future of the company. Gotcha. Want you to put over Oleg Bolton. Or Bolton Oleg. Wait, what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And everyone has looked good in his matches. To me, there is no question in my mind, MVP of B Block is Konosuke Takeshita. To the degree that I'm like, Takeshita should stick around. It made me realize how badly New Japan needs a guy like him. You know, the Yota Tsujis and the Yumeras and they're you know, Shota, Gabe, they're all fine. They're good. To varying degrees for different reasons. But this guy, he's already on another planet. This is a guy that you can lean into. After his performance in this G1, you know, you don't want to do contact tampering. You know, Tony Khan says WWE does it more than enough, so he doesn't want, you know, we don't need New Japan doing that. But, you know, you could just send a text and it's like, hey, once your contract is up, let's talk. I think New Japan would benefit tremendously from having Konosuke Takeshita on board. How does Takeshita fit into AEW's grand scheme right now? What is his role? Like, he is the mid-card special. Like, yeah, he's a guy you put him in, you plop him in a big match, and he's going to deliver because that's who he is. He's tremendous. But is he maybe wasting away? Is he perhaps, you know, just slinking away? He's 29 years old. We're sort of hitting the prime, the really prime part of a wrestler's career these days. We're getting there. And I'm sure he sees Will Ospreay, you know, being in the position. He's seeing a lot of contemporaries, guys like him, who are in these great positions elsewhere. He's like, what about me? Why am I chopped liver? There we go. It's the chopped liver review, folks. So, but all in all, a great match. I thought it was super well structured. Felt like a struggle. Felt like a heavy-handed match. Like with heavy hands, not heavy hand like that. No, that was a bad qualifier because heavy-handed has a negative connotation, and this was very positive. It was a very good match. Like heavy hands was, you know, brutal maybe is the word I should have used. Maybe. So there you go. So tremendous final, semifinal bracket, night one of the playoffs. And then on night two, which was today, August 17, now we actually move into, depending on, you know, how you want to look at it, night two of the playoffs, the block finals or the semifinals of the tournament. I don't know how you want to see this. I think they're all fine. I like the idea of block finals, right? Fight me. Dave Finlay and Yota Tsuji went at it, and actually Yota Tsuji defeated Dave Finlay in the finals of B Block. I thought this was very good. Again, another excellent match here where Tsuji's in control early on, does a side Russian leg sweep by, or not him, but Finlay does a side Russian leg sweep, which puts him into a control segment for a while. Finlay interrupts a dive and beats him up on the floor. Out come some tables. Of course, they will come into play a little later on in the match. Eventually, you know, after being in this heat segment for a while, Yota Tsuji dives and tosses Finlay over the barricade. Back in the ring, he does the stomp combo. They fight on the apron. They're teasing the tables, of course. There's this spot where Dave Finlay torture racks or puts Yota Tsuji in a torture rack, and they're on the floor, and then he just like charges backwards into the post, which I thought that was a fun spot. Back in the ring, there's an Irish curse backbreaker and a flying knee by Yota Tsuji, an avalanche Spanish fly by Yota Tsuji, and a falcon arrow, and the stomp goes for the Marlowe stomp, but Finlay avoids it. Yota Tsuji's in the turnbuckle. Or actually, David Finlay launches Yota Tsuji into the turnbuckle and then lands a Dominator. And there's this incredible powerbomb spot where, again, they're sort of teasing the table thing. And you have, and Dave Finlay has Tsuji up in the powerbomb position, and he's threatening to throw him over the top rope. And Tsuji sort of tumbles over, but the spot, I don't know if it looked a little messy, but the good kind of messy, where you're like, shit, something could go wrong here, you know? And I don't know, because Tsuji tumbles over and he hangs on to the ropes with like just one arm, and you can tell that was not a comfortable spot for him to take. I thought that was tremendous. They tussle on the floor. Finally, Dave Finlay powerbombs Tsuji through the table. Tsuji beats the 20 count and right into oblivion by Dave Finlay, but the match doesn't end there. Tsuji is spent. He tries to throw some blows, but he collapses onto himself. He eats a buckle bomb and a power bomb and a pair of buckle bombs on top of that, which have been very successful for Finlay throughout the tournament. He tries for another power bomb, but it gets reversed into a Rana. Tsuji lands a Gene Blaster after that, but can't cover on time. On time. He does, but he's a little too slow, so that allows Finlay to recuperate. The Marlowe crash lands. Finlay I love the finish here. I love the finish where Tsuji goes for the Gene Blaster. Dave Finlay reverses it into a schoolboy, and Tsuji kicks out. Finlay then goes for the overkill. It's blocked. Some strikes. 2 headbutts by Tsuji lead to a suplex and a Gene Blast for the win. I like such a smooth, explosive finish with a completely unexpected reversal when Finlay schoolboyed the spear. I was like, oh wow, that was tremendous. I love this match. 4 1/4 stars for me. I thought it was excellent. Well done. Yota Tsuji advances to the finals. Dave Finlay don't let the haters fool you. Dave Finlay had a really good tournament. I'm telling you. So I think some guys are starting to get worried about their spot. They're like, let's turn it up. Now, I don't think Dave Finlay is ever going to be an explosive, high octane, work rate focused main event guy. But he's a solid as hell worker. He's not going to be, you know what I'm talking about. These high level New Japan performances, the Kenny Omegas, the Okadas. It's so redundant, but it's always the same thing. Kota Ibushi, Prime Takahashi, all that. We're not going to get that out of him. Not unlike Jay White, but the difference is Jay White had such incredible charisma. There's a lot of stuff he could pull off in these matches that compensated for him not being one of these work rate freakazoids, right? And I think this is kind of the path that Dave Finlay is taking, but it's not, but Dave Finlay is not Jay White. So I think the things that he doesn't bring to the table in that regard are so much more, make his weaknesses much more glaring, right? I feel, but you cannot sit with a straight face in front of me and tell me he had a terrible tournament, because he didn't. He really did not. He had a very good tournament, and good for him. And good for him. So he did the thing. He got the thing. He won the thing. He being Yota Tsuji, of course. Who I'm sort of... oh my goodness. How do I start this? He was... okay, maybe with the preface. I thought he was great in these two previous nights in the playoffs. I thought he was very, very, very good. There's no denying that. But he's got opponents in there that can elevate him as well, right? And I'm not trying to downplay what he did. I'm not trying to say these were carry jobs. They were not. But I still have not seen the spark. I still have not seen the thing that makes me go all in on Tsuji. Instead of me saying, oh, this is, he's one of the guys, and then you turn around and go, he is the guy. I'm still like, he could be the guy. And, we're calling them, we're saying, he's one of the young guys. He's, the next generation. He's 30. Like, he's already 30 years old. And we talked about this a little bit previous to this. It's like, maybe this is a what you see is what you get type of situation. How much better, how much improvement is a 30-year-old Yota Tsuji going to do? Maybe this is the goods here. I was talking in some of my hunts, and Liam from the You Gotta Be Kidding Me podcast, the TNA retrospective, right? He is Liam Jones, of course. He made a really good point, saying that maybe, because he had told me, that he had kind of gotten sour about Tsuji over the past, couple of, not just over the G1, but this sort of, made the taste in his mouth a little sourer. And he figured that, and he really liked the performances here as well. So, he's not ready to count him out, but he made a very good point. Maybe he's going to be an aura guy. Maybe he's going to be a charisma guy, like Shinsuke Nakamura. And I think that's a great comp, where Shinsuke Nakamura comes in, his driving force is his charisma, and he's going to have the occasional great match, like once in a while, and there you go. And that's the Yota Tsuji's destiny. And if so, that's fine. Don't get me wrong. But maybe we're at a point now where we just have to, backtrack a little bit. Not backtrack. Adjust our expectations. Be like, well, Tsuji might be a guy, but it won't be for the work. Maybe it'll be just for being just this force of nature that you can't take your eyes away from, and he'll just look and feel the part, and that will be sufficient. And 2 or 3 times a year, he will have a match that'll tear the house down. And maybe that's his thing. Or maybe he's, we're on the verge of piecing everything together. But like I often like to say, if you haven't pieced it together when you're 30, what are the odds then that, it's going to suddenly improve? I'm not saying he's washed. I'm not saying he's through. I'm saying maybe he's not the top guy that everyone was expecting him to be. Because I can't say I was blown away by his tournament. Can you say you were blown away by his tournament? Like Gabe Kidd blew me away in his tournament. Takeshita, of course, like we were mentioning, right? Anyway. So that was very good. Did I say 4 1/4 stars for this? I really liked it. I thought it was a great, excellent match. But you want to talk about great matches? You got to put Zack Sabre Jr. and Shingo Takagi in a ring and just let them go. And they will deliver an absolutely tremendous barn burner. A great pro wrestling match. Like 2 nights in a row, the main event to me of the main event of these G1 playoffs were all about just being good, solid professional wrestling matches, in-ring drama building. 2 guys just trying to get the best out of each other and trying to best the other guy. We're starting off with stalemates and whatnot. You can tell this one's going long, just like the night before. They fight on the floor and Shingo gets back into the ring. There's a lot of back and forth between the two, but Shingo starts throwing Zack around and you're like, oh boy, like this is not part of Zack's game plan here. Absolutely not. Zack Sabre Jr. starts applying submissions, of course, starts working the knee. That'll be important. They trade some strikes. Shingo Takagi lands a magic screw. He blocks the Euro clutch with a sleeper and transitions into a Cobra. So he's like, I like how in these matches oftentimes, right, with Zack Sabre Jr., people are like, I'll bust out a submission move here. It's like Zack brings that out of him. It's like, yeah, I can do it too. We hadn't seen this in a while. He lands the Made in Japan after this. Shingo lands the guillotine lariat again, but out of that, Zack Sabre Jr. lands a Zack driver. But he's kind of spent, kind of loopy. He can't cover. He avoids a dragon screw leg whip. Why do I always stumble across that? I always stumble over that one. I don't know why. So dragon screw leg whip and a PK followed by Zack Sabre Jr. Shingo locks in the Cobra again, goes for a pin attempt, but Zack Sabre Jr. is out of it. He twists up Shingo's leg and he's twisting it good. He even lands in a Cobra twist, but Shingo breaks out of that. And he hobbles to a pumping bomber. I loved that spot. You know how he sort of, gets ahead of steam. He's like a bull. Just starts going for the ropes, but the knee, and he hobbles for it. It's just tremendous stuff. But Zack Sabre Jr. twists him up. Shingo fights out and lands Last of the Dragon. But he's just a little bit too slow on covering. Zack kicks out. And honestly, at that point, I'm like, Zack's winning. Like, at that point, I'm like, okay. I can see this coming now. Incredible sequence where they're avoiding each other's stuff. Like, just a fantastic sequence. Where Zack Sabre Jr. Lands a Sabre driver. Or a Zack driver, I should say. Kinda. It's not quite. I don't know if he didn't get the full lift or whatnot. And then transitions into a knee bar. And that's it. That's the end. Shingo is fighting desperately to get out of it. His knee is shit. It's done. and he's struggling and he's trying to stay on top of things. And he's like, no, you can't put me away. You can't put me away. But eventually he taps dead center in the middle of the ring. And Zack Sabre Jr. advances. He's bringing it home, baby. I love this match so much. 4 3/4 stars. I'm just shy of the 5 star. I don't know why, but it didn't quite reach that beat. And maybe it's because I saw the finish coming when Zack kicked out of the Last of the Dragon. I'm like, oh, that's a little sus. Then I started to expect it. Loved this finish. Loved the finishes on most of these matches, right? And the previous match's finish was absolutely fantastic. The roll-ups and everything. The schoolboy reverse of the Gene Blaster, and then the follow-up was just tremendous. The finish to Takeshita versus Tsuji as well. Shingo and Kokugikan was a good finish, don't get me wrong. Just a little more standard. A little more what you'd expect. So there you have it. Shingo is not advancing. Now, I can't say I'm entirely disappointed because Zack was my pick to win the whole thing. I still think that, but I had made a case for Shingo, and I wouldn't have been disappointed with the Shingo main event either. But I think we've said it a couple of times here. The days of Shingo being pushed, I think they're behind us. Like, really pushed? I think they're behind us. I think this is Shingo's role moving forward here. And there's nothing wrong with that. And as having a guy who can take L's in big situations to put over the guys we're pushing and making them look good in the process and delivering great matches in the process. I mean, we could do a lot worse here. We could do a lot worse than Shingo. It's not a bad role to fill, and someone has to fill it. So good for him. Would it have been nice for him to win a G1 on the year of his 20th anniversary in the business? Sure. It would have been a nice story. That would have been fun. Do I think it would have been an utter impediment for him to be main eventing with Tetsuya Naito in the Dome? No, it would not have been an impediment. I've heard this argument. It's like, Zack Sabre Jr., he's not a draw. Well, who else is a draw? We've talked about this. Who else is a draw in this company outside of Naito right now? And I dare you to find someone to say, yeah, it's that guy. There's no one. You're going to put someone else, you're going to try someone out, And that's why, the closer we're getting here, the more I think that the closer we're getting and how things are shaking out here, the more I hope it is Zack Sabre Jr. Because I'm not convinced on Yota. I don't know if Yota is going to have that kind of match with Naito. And if Naito starts falling apart in the main event, I don't know if Yota can walk him through it. I don't know if Yota can take the Will Ospreay role from the G1 last year and make sure that Naito finishes the match and make sure he lands his destinos and what the fuck, Zack, I'm a little more confident. And maybe that's a consideration that's being figured out here as well, right? And Zack, I think the crowds like Zack. And here's the thing that I don't, here's something that I've noticed, and I think it came full circle tonight. I think everyone sort of felt that when Zack Sabre Jr. lost the world television title, that he was losing up, right? Moving on to the next level and becoming a guy, right? And then, and that's what everyone was expecting. Sure, he won the title back. I think they pulled the emergency brake on, the Matt Riddle stuff and just had to secure the belt back onto Zack just for a while to get, just to get it off of Riddle so that he could move on from all that nonsense. And then since then, he's been fairly low profile, I think keeping the low profile so that he could explode in the G1 here. And, he's been going into the audience a lot. He's been coming out, he's being cornered. Tonight he had the TMDK guys out there with the, with the banner, or was it just a towel? I don't know. They came out, like they're giving him the big guy feel. And he wins the match, and he goes into the audience to do the post-match commentary, and he's standing there, arms extended. People are going crazy around him, and the lighting, and regardless of how, whether or not there were more people in Ryogoku this year than last year, the place looked packed. So you've got the arena going bonkers for him. People are trying to touch him, to high five him, and he's standing there, the lights, and you're like, Christ, there's a star. That's a star portrait right there. And he's got this snap, this confidence, this swagger, this energy. Chris Charlton offhandedly, made a point. I don't know if this adds into what I'm saying here, but bear with me for a second here. At some point, Chris Charlton says, there was a day when Zack Sabre Jr. would have lost a match, and he'd go backstage and he'd throw a tantrum, he'd throw chairs around, he'd flip tables, right? And we all remember those. But he hasn't done that in a while. Why? Because I think he's being set up. I think it's been a process, a long, delicate, but concerted process to get Zack Sabre Jr. up into a top guy sheen, to get him into that top guy feel. And when I saw him in the audience after the match, I was like, holy shit. I think they're doing it. I think this is it. I think it'll work. And look, like I also mentioned, historically speaking, in Wrestle Kingdoms, only 2 guys have ever main evented in the Dome. 2 gaijin is what I should say, have ever main evented in the Dome. Kenny Omega and Jay White. I think overall, New Japan prefers to have, homegrown talent, national talent, Japanese talent in the main events, as opposed to having Westerners in there. I think, the data's there to prove me wrong, or to prove me right. The data's there, it's observable, right? I think that's a safe deduction to put through, but it's hard to imagine that the Japanese fans would be upset at the prospect of Zack Sabre Jr. not going there. A guy who, speaks the language now. He's made New Japan his home. He's committed. He's been committed for years. I don't know why they wouldn't lean into him more. Plus, the upside of Zack Sabre Jr., let's say going to the Dome and winning the title off of Naito, and then Zack wrestling the younger guys is a much better prospect for him to elevate them, because he can work to their strengths as opposed to Tetsuya Naito, who has a lot of who's physically embattled. Let's put it that way. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But do you feel it? Did you feel that, or is it just me? Did you feel the high from... Did you feel Zack Sabre Jr. just running out there and being coming across like a top tippy top guy? Was it just me? I don't know. So this is where we're at right now. So this is where we're at. Tomorrow, August 18, 2024, the G1 CLIMAX 34 finals will be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yota, Tsuji, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a compelling watch. So I'm excited to see how it's all going to shake out. And that's about it. Usually we talk about recommendations and standard. Look, watch the whole thing. Watch these 4 matches. What do you want from me? Like, this is why you tune in. These matches were all great. They were all great to excellent. Like, just do yourself a favor. Watch some good wrestling. Do yourself a favor and watch some good wrestling. Trust me. You will like this. Watch all 4 of these. Watch the semis. Watch the semifinals, the block finals. You're going to have a blast. Now, am I going to be back tomorrow? No, I already said at the start of the show that this is the last of the daily coverage. I will be wrapping up the G1 CLIMAX 34 on the Mr. Warren Hayes show this week. So, we'll be talking about my favorite matches, the big stories that came out of it. We're, of course, going to break down the finals, possibilities leading it, what this means for Wrestle Kingdom. I'm going to be in full analysis mode this Tuesday when we record live at 7 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Or otherwise, you'll get everything the very next day on YouTube, on your favorite podcast application. It'll be right there waiting for you on Wednesday. So there we will break everything down. But I love this time of year. And, now that I've started doing this daily G1 coverage, I've been enjoying this so much, and I feel like it's added to my enjoyment of the G1 as well. So I'll probably be back, barring some disaster. I'll probably be back next year for more daily coverage of the G1 35. I hope you all enjoyed it. A lot of you, a lot of you did reach out, did leave comments, popped in Discord, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, to let me know that you enjoyed all of this, and I appreciate it tremendously. When you do this kind of stuff, it doesn't take much to light the flame and make you feel good about what you're doing. So thank you very much for your comments, and I really, really do hope that you appreciated the coverage all throughout this G1. So there we go. And I appreciate all of you, of course, coming in to watch and listen and enjoy it as well. So I hope you enjoyed the G1. Let me know what you thought. Thank you all very much for popping in, and I will see you next time.